fans, wherever you may be, welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Join your host, Phil Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Seahawks fans, welcome to another edition of the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Alvstad, here with Keith Myers. Keith, welcome to the show, man. Tough loss, but welcome anyway, and we're going to do this thing no matter what. We're always here.
Yeah, I mean, after a loss like that, it's good for us, you and I, to get together. We do the show. It's cathartic. Feel better about everything leaving, or at least feel, I don't know, less anxious about it, and just get all the nonsense out.
Talk it out. Talk Seahawks football.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's what we do. So, So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that awful game. We're going to turn our attention at the end to the next game on the docket, which is the New York Jets, winless New York Jets. They almost won. They had a big, huge mistake by their defensive coordinator, cost him his job. Of course, he was probably on the way out, at the end of the season anyway, but they just decided to jettison him after that terrible call against the Las Vegas Raiders. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of call that
We'll remind everybody what happened, kind of.
Okay, so the Jets were actually beating the Raiders. The Raiders were 5 seconds left. You just have to
Hail Mary.
Yeah, you got a Hail Mary type situation. All you do in that situation is
drop 8 or 9 into coverage and bat it down.
Bat it down, or if they complete something underneath, make a tackle. Game over, you win. And instead, Greg Williams did zero coverage, so no safeties at all. Everyone in man coverage, and blitzed.
Yeah.
And
sent the house.
Yeah, and so they completed a pass, and there was no safety back, and easy pitch and catch for a touchdown, and the Jets lost. And Greg Williams honestly shouldn't be employed after that. That was, I mean, he's been genuinely bad all year, but that makes absolutely no sense on any level. People have been saying, like, oh yeah, he was trying to lose to help them tank for Trevor Lawrence.
Come on.
No, that's why they fired him the next day. That's just unbelievably terrible.
Yeah, so that's the team we face. So now, of course, against the Seahawks, there's a tad bit of uncertainty when they go into the game with a new DC. We'll talk about that.
They won't have Greg Williams. We know they won't blitz as much because Greg Williams is notorious for blitzing like at every opportunity.
Sure.
And so no matter who it is, they're going to blitz a little bit less.
Yeah, they're going to probably stick with the scheme, quote unquote, overall, just because you can't change in a week. It's time.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah, they'll do the same thing, but
they've got their linebacker coach is the interim DC, so they're going to run the same stuff. They may not blitz as much, but they'll still be doing it. I mean, they got to do what they got to do.
Oh yeah.
And against Russell Wilson, that's been proven to be somewhat effective against the Seahawks. So we'll talk about that.
Let's see. The Rams also won. They beat the Cardinals, came back. I thought the Cardinals were going to have that one, and then
Rams were 8-4, back tiebreaker in first place with the Seahawks.
Yep. So they're back in first place because they own the tiebreaker over Seattle for now. Both
Seattle
teams
drops to the 5th seed in the NFC,
which might not necessarily be a bad thing if that's how it ends.
If we keep winning, Keith, we got to talk about this schedule and like what's happening to this team, and there's just more to it than just this current record right now. Like,
I know
wheels are kind of coming off a little bit. 3-4 in the last 7. It's just, it's weird.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if you end up in the 5th seed in the first round, you play the winner of the NFC East, which is probably the Giants. We saw them. Our defense shut them down. Our offense just did nothing. But that's an entirely winnable game, no matter what. So unless you can unseat the Saints from the number 1 seed and get that first round bye, I
Well,
don't know.
let's
I
talk
don't know if
realistic scenario.
being the 5 seed is probably the best
Well,
seed.
here's the situation too. You could take a look pessimistically at this remaining schedule, and you could say the Seahawks could go 1-3, end up at 9-7 out of the playoffs. I mean, that's kind of where the worst case scenario is. That's in play. I mean, that is a possibility given the way that we've been playing. Or we could clean out. We could go. We could get to 12 wins. There's a huge spectrum to me, depending on which team shows up from here on out,
Yeah.
and we need to be realistic about that because I'm not sure,
Well, and I think we can get into that as we talk about this
Yeah.
Giants game, because the problem this week, for the first time all year, the problem was not the defense. The
I don't
defense
know if
played
it's the first time, but the
well.
offense didn't show up at all.
All of the losses were on the defense. I mean, you have the turnovers by Wilson, but there was also a lot of historically bad defense mixed in there, so the team couldn't overcome the turnovers. But the defense has been bad. I mean, we can leave it at that. The defense has been bad, but in this game they worked. They were good.
Yeah, the last 3 or 4 games they've been showing up though.
Yeah, and the offense wasn't. The offense wasn't good at all. The offense was just putrid bad. I mean, it was terrible.
So before we get into all that, let's talk about the news and notes this week. Just talk about some injury type news for the most part. We talked about the NFC West and the NFC standings right up front. Rashad Penny set to return tomorrow, Wednesday, for the team. That's big news considering Chris Carson's injuries, Carlos Hyde's injuries. If you get Penny back, granted he's coming off an ACL with no practice at all, but we'll see if by the playoffs he's kind of a piece there that we can work with to help that out. Darrell Taylor, interesting news this last week. Pete said he went out for some medical treatment, a second opinion. He not only got the second opinion, he ended up getting an injection in his leg. Don't know if that's plasma or if that's cortisone or whatever, but Pete said he would take a couple weeks to further evaluate that. That kind of points to plasma in a sense that it takes about 14 days for results to kind of to come out on stuff like that. So we'll see. Like, you might as well just forget about it this year is basically kind of what I'm saying. There's no reason that the team would bring him in for one game at the end of the year in playoffs. The guy just doesn't have any reps with the team, no practice. That would be a somewhat awkward situation.
Well, I mean, what we were told a couple of weeks ago was that he was getting close. And then what we were told this last week was that he's no closer than he was this summer. And that's an interesting thing there where we're told one thing and then a couple of weeks later we're told something completely different. And he did leave and he went for a second opinion. And the thought when he left was that he might be done for the year. This shut him down and come back. Now it's going to be he had what we believe is a platelet-rich plasma injection, and he'll be back, in 2 weeks, and they'll know whether we'll have him at any point this year. I agree. I don't think he's going to play. He's going to sit there on the inactive list, on reserve, until somebody gets hurt and they're desperate.
So let me ask you this, and I know you're not a medical guy, but we can just kind of speculate just a little bit. On a non-knee situation or a non-joint situation, which this is, to the best of my knowledge, it's not the ankle mobility-wise, it's not the knee, it's in between. He's fractured that leg with a rod now inserted into that bone. And so when you get an injection of plasma, what are you trying to accomplish with that? Is that specifically to enhance healing of ligament tear damage, where they actually placed the the rod in the bone itself? Like, is the bone stitching of that fracture not completely solid? Like, why would they put an injection in a non-joint situation?
So if the bone wasn't healing around everything, then he wouldn't have been running. They would have gone in and redone surgery, done a bone graft. That would have happened a long time ago. So that's not the issue. The issue here is, when you have to go in and put the rod inside the bone, you end up with a fairly big incision. There's a lot of damage to the musculature and stuff around it as you're taking the joint or the leg apart in order to get the rod in there. And so what you end up with when you have all this stuff put back together is there's obviously inflammation, and then as you use the muscle and it's rubbing across a bone that's not as smooth, you can get some inflammation from there. It's irritation and other problems. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to just get all that stuff calmed down and healed and back to normal, so that way he can use the muscles and stuff around where that where the rod went in, and not have that constant pain that comes from it. And it's an interesting thing.
Is it a time issue now, or is there a possibility that he may never play to the level, the explosion level that he had before the injury?
Well, I think it's more of a time issue. I mean, it comes down to him and what's his work ethic like? How hard is he working? How much is he putting into it in terms of keeping the rest of his body ready to go? Because that's what's going to determine it, not the leg. With the leg, it's a matter of getting it healed to a point where he can do stuff without pain. And once he gets to that, he'll be back playing. Now, it may always bother him a little bit in terms of the pain and whatnot. I mean, that's pretty common with that kind of stuff, but it doesn't mean it's going to stop him from doing anything, right? It's just, okay, so he's got a little bit of, he ices it after every game or whatnot.
I say shut it down. I would rather not take the chance at this point. Don't need him. We don't need him on the team. We're not desperate. And so I would say shut it down, put him on IR, get him out, and reevaluate in May. Mini camp, see where he's at, bring him along so he's ready for training camp, because you don't want to screw this thing up and have to redo this thing, because that would set it back another calendar year.
Well, you're never going to have to redo like where the bone is.
They've talked about it.
I don't know. I
recently,
didn't hear that.
But they talked about it in May or June as something where he was going to come along a little slower. And they talked about, who did the surgery, what they did, the fact that it's not healing as fast may point to an indication that they may have to redo it. And I haven't heard that since about May, and I don't know where I got that.
I haven't heard that. I mean, there is a thing where if the way the bone healed, it's got like a ridge at the break spot. And it's like the muscle moving on that, and it's causing him the pain, and it's, wearing on the muscle and that kind of stuff. They may go back in and file that down and make that part of the bone smooth. But you're not talking about re-breaking the bone and any of that. I mean, that's not a concern in this case. So you're not talking about like resetting the clock and losing another calendar
Every indication is that he was about 85%. 90% before this little side trip. And so, I mean, to me, 90% after 10 months is pretty decent for that sort of an injury. Come to find out, they were thinking all along that he would be available in week 8 to 12. At least that's what they're saying at this point. So I'd just say shut him down.
Yeah, I'm all for, just letting it play out. You have the flexibility within the system to leave him on the on the reserve list, but without shutting him down. Because if his leg reacts to this injection, this treatment that he's getting now, and the pain goes away, and if he was 85, 90% before this, and he's better than that now, why not get him? You're given 3 weeks of practice time. So what happens if they use his 3 weeks of practice time just to get him some reps with the practice squad guys, and then shut him down? Right? What's the harm in that? You're getting.
Well, they've been doing that. I mean,
he's not though. He's not allowed to practice. He's been working on a side field, running and working out, but he's not actually getting reps and practicing with the guys and learning, the system from inside it. He's just watched film and that kind of stuff. And it would be valuable for him to get 3 weeks with the reps, with the backups, the third string guys, and that kind of stuff, just for his learning. And so to me, there's no downside to waiting it out and seeing if you can get that out of him. And then if he's picking that stuff up well and his leg's still not bothering him, and then Benson Mayoa gets hurt again, or Alton Robinson gets hurt or something like that, and you need a body, okay, it's week 16 and you got a body. And you can get him a couple of games of actual game experience where he's taking 10 snaps a game or something. It'll speed his learning up for next year. And so I don't see any reason why you just have to be like, nope, we're done. Just shut him down and not even think about it, because there's a lot to be lost by doing that.
All right. Brandon Shell supposed to come back, return after the high ankle. We need him.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's been kind of nuts. I mean, Jamarco Jones did okay. He got hurt. Wheeler came in, looked like a practice squad guy.
He was a turnstile.
Yeah, and so Brandon Shell back would help. Potty's, was hurt in this last game a little bit, and so Jordan Simmons came in for a while. The offensive line has just not been in sync for a while, and it's been difficult, especially since Brian Schottenheimer seems intent upon staying with the long ball game and these long developing routes. And we'll talk about that. Quentin Dunbar is supposed to return from IR and practice. Hopefully that knee is quieted down for him and he can have an impact in full health. It would be nice to kind of see that before the end of the year to find out if you reinvest in a guy like that or allow him to walk. Ryan Neal has a hip pointer out of this game, although Pete did say that it wasn't as serious as they originally thought and that he probably would come along and play in this game. Which
Ryan Neal has been
he's really having a
he's been such a pleasant surprise. And you saw it in this last game where he was on as the dime player, and he came up and made a couple of big plays and
caused an interception for Quentin Dunbar. Or not Quentin Dunbar.
Diggs.
Diggs.
Yeah. Had an impact. I mean, he's just been this pleasant surprise, this great find, because this was a practice squad guy for the last couple of years. He wasn't even on the roster week 1, but they had so many injuries at safety that he became the starter almost instantly off the practice squad and held it down, did pretty well, and has continued to play well even with spotty minutes and snap count since then. When he's on the field, he plays.
It's interesting, Keith, that you and I were both talking about it in the spring, needing a guy that we could develop as a corner, quote unquote. And the cool thing about Ryan Neal is he was the kind of guy that I was really looking at because he was long, had that nice speed. And then the Adams injury came and he ended up playing some safety. And I was like, oh, this guy could play safety. And now he's playing a little dime and nickel. I'm sure he can probably play some outside in a pinch. A guy like that on the roster, especially with the special teams, he blocked the punt in this game. I think it was probably one of the best plays of the game, quite honestly, for the Seahawks. And just that ability overall to be able to impact the team from that 4th or 5th corner spot on the team is a real nice thing. I think it probably points to the end of the run for Nico Thorpe. he's been oft injured the last couple of years.
Like, you've been saying that for a couple of years now.
I know he keeps coming back. I don't know, but I mean,
well,
you got
he's
to
a
admit
captain.
that Ryan Neal would be definitely a less expensive replacement for Nico Thorpe.
Oh yeah,
and the way that Ryan's been playing, he gives you way more upside on the field than Nico Thorpe ever did.
Yeah, he does, and Thorpe's a captain, and I get why they keep bringing him back because he's one of the best of the best when it comes to special team stuff, and he's such a great guy, and he's such a hard worker, and there's a reason why he's a captain, right? And then, but he has not been able to stay healthy. You can't do your job if you're not on the field, and at some point they are going to have to move on. And having the way Cody Barton has played this year,
oh yeah,
on special teams,
and he
now
makes a ton of tackles.
Oh God, he makes all the tackles on kickoff returns.
Right.
And then you throw in the way Ryan Neal's played, and I think you've got some special teams chops now.
Well, we're third in the NFL in special teams.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
And so I just think that you can feel much more comfortable moving on from a guy like Thorpe than you would have in the past, now that you've seen it done at a very high level by other guys.
So Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson should be 100% this week. Carlos Hyde had a turf toe, and he's finally getting back. And then Chris Carson should be 100%, according to Pete Carroll, which is good news. I think they need both those guys at 100%. Gives us more options to be able to run the ball and run it effectively. Carlos Dunlap had restricted snap count in this last game and should be closer to 100% by this weekend. And so that's good news. He was fairly ineffective in his limited count. They just had him on third down for the most part in this last game. All right, so let's get this thing over with, Keith. Seattle ends up losing to the New York Giants. I have to say, 12-17. I have to say that the Giants defense surprised me a little bit. I knew that they were coming in playing pretty well, but man, they just made everything really tough for the Seahawks. Their defensive line was very effective against our offensive line, which has become less and less effective over the last 4 or 5 weeks. The NFC teams were 0-17 coming in. Colt McCoy didn't do much in this game. Everything was going to have to be on the run defense. And it was true. Colt McCoy ended up 13-22 for 105 yards, a TD and an interception. Where they killed us was on the ground, which was really surprising considering that we've been a very good run defense team this year. Mm-hmm. They allowed a couple of chunk plays, including a 60-yarder, 2 drives in the third quarter, basically killed the game, given the fact that our offense was so inept, which was just unreal. The offense generated 3 points on the first drive, and then a single TD with 6 minutes to go in the game, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean the opening drive was nice, right? They drove it down the field. Everything looked easy.
It looked great.
They got down into in the red zone, and they had a couple of plays that just didn't go the way they wanted them to, and they ended up settling for a field goal. And you're like, you know what? They moved the ball so easy. It's going to be fine. And that was literally the last time they did anything significant on offense until the fourth quarter. Until like 8 minutes left or what it was. They didn't do anything else the rest of the game. They just
I have to admit, when they did that, when they had that drive with Chris Carson scoring on the reception, touchdown reception, I thought, that was the drive that we needed to kind of kickstart this thing. I don't know where it was, but I'll take it. And let's go get the next one. So let's get a stop. Let's get the ball back and let's score. And that's kind of what happened. Seahawks ended up with the ball back, in a 2-minute situation with a couple timeouts. And you're thinking Russell Wilson, 2 minutes, came in the bag, right? Especially against the Giants. I mean, let's get this thing done. I know it's been painful, but holy cow, here it is right in front of us. No. No, it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't
No,
going to happen.
God, they just
Hats
played.
off to the Giants.
Yep, the
Whatever they
Giants
did
played well
scheme wise.
defensively.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what they did scheme wise was they put two safeties
They
back.
take away the deep throw, and I kid you not, Brian Schottenheimer and Russell Wilson are both guilty of
Yeah,
trying to get more out of the offense than teams are allowing us.
yeah,
You know, you got to take what the defense is giving you, and right now teams are giving us things underneath. They're giving us the run game. You got to take those things, and the quick game, quick reads, quick outs, screen game, all that stuff is available. We're just not doing it. And
yeah.
when we are electing to do it, quite frankly, the offensive line is breaking down a little bit, and we're giving up some sacks. Russell Wilson's holding the ball. I mean, Russell Wilson was sacked 5 times, hit 10 times, right? Lost 47 yards on those sacks. Unbelievable.
Yeah, some of those sacks were bad. I mean, he's running backwards as he's getting sacked and losing extra yards. I mean, it's just.
There's so many things wrong right now, Keith. I mean, you know, Wilson, the first 5 games, 123 at 169, 73%, 19 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, MVP, right? Passer rating 129. Last 7 games, 182, 267, 68%, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a bunch of fumbles, 93 rating. It's just imploding. I mean, we averaged 31 points and 6 yards per play coming in. That was including the offense not playing very well in the last 3 weeks. We ended up scoring 12 points in this game and averaged like 4.5 yards per play. And the defense has been improving this entire time that the offense has been imploding. So it's just the script is flipped. You know, if you can get both those things in sync, like the defense is playing as well as it has been, and the first 8 game Russell Wilson shows up, man, we would be totally contending in these games, winning these games, being in the playoff hunt as a first seed. And now the entire season has come into question because of the remaining schedule and the seeding. And once we get to the playoffs, are we going to be able to do anything?
Well, I mean, what you look at here is if the defense continues to play the way that it has the last 3 games, and the offense returns to its form from early in the season, you have arguably the best team in the NFL, not except for maybe Kansas City or Pittsburgh, depending on how you want to look at it. But you have the best team in the NFC, and you have a team that's gonna get through to the Super Bowl, and then we'll see what happens. But the way the offense is playing right now, playoffs can be in jeopardy because they're not doing any. And the thing is, it's not just what other teams are doing to them. I went through and watched the tape on this because I really wanted to see what was going on with the offense. You watch the L22, so the camera that's back, so you can see all the players. And Wilson had guys open and didn't throw the ball, and instead waited and waited. And then threw it away. Like there was one, I think it was 3rd and 16, and he threw the ball in the dirt at DJ Dallas's feet. I don't know if you remember that play, but he had Metcalf on a crosser for only about like a 5 or 6 yard gain, but it's Metcalf, right? So you get him the ball, let him catch it, and see if he can break a tackle. He also had a Hollister over the middle, wide open, but he's got to get the ball out of his hand and to Hollister. And by the time he was thinking about it, it was already too late to throw the ball. You throw it at that point, and the safety comes over and either breaks it up or gets a pick. And so he's
wrapped up or hit or his timing is completely off.
Just indecisive, and his timing's off, and he's just not getting the ball to the right guy at the right time.
Yeah, the overthrows and the underthrows and the fumbled snap, and with the Giants recovering, and the intentional grounding and the interceptions and the 5 sacks for 47 yards. And Russell Wilson has 12 turnovers in the 4 losses we've got, and he's only got 3 turnovers in the 8 wins. That's why I think it's an equal part play call, scheming situation, and it's and an equal part Russell Wilson, because you've got it in his position, as good as he is, and he's a future Hall of Famer. he needs to do better. He needs to have pre-snap reads that are way better than he's got going right now. He's not picking up line calls he should be picking up that are obvious at this point. Teams are blitzing him. Teams are coming at him. Teams are stunting. They're disguising coverages. He's got to be able to read those things quicker to make quicker decisions. He's holding the ball, 3.5, 4 seconds in this game. I think the longest time to throw the ball in a game this last week, and it still got sacked 5 times.
Yeah,
and so it's just not happening.
That's why he got sacked 5 times, because he wasn't getting the ball out of his hand.
Yeah.
There's another thing there is that the announcers at one point in the game said that they wanted these slower developing plays because the Giants do so much moving it before the snap and disguising what they're doing, and they wanted to give Wilson a chance to actually wait for them to declare what they're doing, which is after the snap, before having to figure out where the ball is going and that kind of stuff. So they wanted it to be that slow.
What happened to the fact that when we dictate terms, what's going on with that team? Like,
I don't know.
We were dictating terms. We owned the NFL. We were the best offense in the league. Russell Wilson was the MVP of the league, and we're allowing teams like the Giants to dictate what we do.
Yeah. Schottenheimer, I heard that, and they said that that Schottenheimer told them that in their meetings and blah blah. And I'm like, why? That's terrible. I get why you'd want to do it in theory, in theory or whatnot. But you know what? You know what you want to do. Go do it. Go do it well. And that's what they did in that opening drive when they drove it down the length of the field. They didn't wait to see what the Giants were going to do and then go, okay, so now that means we can do this other thing. They just took what they wanted. And they have got to stop being cute and just freaking play football, because it's not working. It's just not working. Last week, I was on here ranting about the defense because they gave up 300 yards and a half to a team that just benched their quarterback because they played so badly. And now the defense wasn't a problem in this game. The defense only gave up 105 yards passing in the entire game.
And 17 points.
Yeah, I mean, the defense played great.
They allowed 200 total yards and 17 points.
Yeah.
And I'll take that all day long. That's well below league average.
Yeah. So you look at the comparative and you're like, well, it's still the Giants. They're a bad offensive team.
190 rushing yards. No, you don't want to see
it's
that.
Colt McCoy and all of that. But you know what?
In fact, that's the disappointing thing, Keith, right there. The defense allowed 190 yards rushing when they were facing Colt McCoy, right? That's the one thing that you don't want to do. You shut down the run. You make the Giants one-dimensional. They're already fairly one-dimensional with the run game being their only thing. And here you come into the game ranked 3rd in the NFL in defending the run, and you allowed them to run 190 yards on you, take you out of the game essentially in the 3rd quarter by allowing 2 scoring drives back to back.
Well, you look at why that happened.
Down, and they scored from 48 yards out.
Yeah, I mean, you look at why that happened. As far as the run, is that they ran the right play when the Seahawks were coming on a pass rush. They had guys blitzing in off the defense's left side, so the offense's right side.
AJ Wright lost the edge.
Yeah, and so you've got guys blitzing there, so you don't have like Jamal Adams back in the middle, and then KJ Wright didn't set the edge right, and they blocked it perfectly, they played it perfectly, and the Seahawks had guys, I don't want to say out of position because they were playing what the defense was called, but they were blitzing from one side and they ran it to the other, and you take that player out of the play just by what you called. So there's a coaching aspect to that. And you can't be rushing the passer and blitzing when the other team's running and expect it to work. And it didn't. It went for 60-some yards, and that changed the game.
It did change the game, and then they came back. Like I said, we failed to convert on 4th and 1. Giants drove 48 yards for the second touchdown, and the offense just couldn't recover. couldn't play from behind, couldn't recover, and it was doomed. You know, I don't know what the answers are on the offense. I think you need to simple it up. You need to really evaluate that quick hitting type offense. It worked scripted wise in the first drive. I think you need to stick with that and
And
get that
then
running game going,
in
because
typical Brian Schottenheimer format, he whatever is working, he's going to stop doing and go to something else, because that's what he's done his entire career as an offensive coordinator, including his time in Seattle. And what they had that was working, he stopped doing, and the offense never recovered.
All right, let's talk about some players that stood out to you or didn't. Obviously, we've already talked about Wilson. Let's talk about the two wide receivers, Metcalf and Lockett. And I want to talk to you. Metcalf's still kind of doing his thing, although I wish they fed him the ball. I wish they generated plays for him to get him into open space more. With that said, I wanted to talk to you about Tyler Lockett a little bit. He had a knee injury come up, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, where he tweaked the knee and so forth. To me, I'm not sure if he's been as impactful since, and I'm wondering if maybe you're sensing a little bit there where he's just not getting open. Russell Wilson's having to kind of hold the ball a little longer because he's looking to lock it and he's just not there. So he's having to go down, check down, and it takes just one more tick off the clock.
Yep. I don't think Lockett's fully right. And in this game, though, he started out the first drive. He was the guy, made some big plays, had some other catches, and things looked okay. And then he took a knee to the helmet, had to be evaluated for a concussion, passed the concussion protocol and all of that, so he was able to get back out and play more. But if you'll notice, he was not productive after he came back. So I don't know if he also kind of looked like he tweaked his ankle on the play, and so maybe that had to do with it. But there was definitely, like, he just wasn't productive. He wasn't getting open like he normally would, and it was, you could see that the offense, when the opposing defenses are lining someone up on Metcalf and they're rolling a safety. They're bracket coveraging him with two guys. He's getting double covered. And they did that all game in this one. And when that's happening, you're getting single coverage elsewhere, and those guys have to get open. And against Arizona, it was Lockett who got open a lot, and that's why he has 20 catches and, I don't know, 400 and some yards against Arizona in the two games this year, because he did get open. He took advantage of them trying really hard to shut down Metcalf. But in this game, those kind of mismatches didn't happen. David Moore has been he's not showing up on offense the way he did early in the year. He's not making the same plays he did. And so
how
again,
big of a deal is it to have Greg Olsen out?
I don't know if it is a big deal to have Greg Olsen out. I mean, Greg Olsen he's such a great pro in terms of his ability to block, run block, pass block, get open, make catches, and all those kind of things. But athletically, he isn't the greatest player anymore. I mean, he's 37. Having Will Disley out there, Will Disley is the better athlete at this point, better player, and does all the same things really well. And so I don't think that it really matters as far as that. It's just a matter of, maybe it was because they had two tight end sets and they left Disley in to block, and it allowed Olsen to go out. But now you can leave Disley in to block and let Hollister go out into routes.
So
I don't see it being a thing that's going to cause this.
How big do you think it is now to possibly get a guy like Josh Gordon back into this offense, given the struggles that we're currently going through?
Actually, I think it could be huge. I mean, obviously, this late in the game, he hasn't practiced. It's going to take him 3 weeks to get up to speed once he gets past all the COVID stuff. But for him to come in and take some of the pressure off of, Brandon or David Moore and Swain and those guys, in order to have another reliable receiver as the number 3 option or the number 4 option behind the top two guys, I think that could do a ton for this team. He's the one guy on the roster other than Metcalf who I trust to run a slant route
Well,
correctly.
and you can move chains with Gordon. He's
Absolutely.
a chain mover.
Yeah.
Now, what about a guy like Parkinson? Do you think they'll work him into a situation where he could be a red zone target this year?
I don't know. I think for him, the lack of training camp's really hurting his ability for the coaches to get him on the field and do
and
stuff.
For Russell Wilson to trust him.
Yeah, I mean that's the other part of it is, how many of those plays where he throws it to a guy that you think is covered, but it's such a good throw, and then also he trusts the guy to go get it. But why would he trust a guy who's never caught a pass from him that he doesn't know, he's never practiced with? And so I just don't see Parkinson getting a lot of snaps unless there's another injury. But you never know. They might be working on something in practice, and they throw him out there, and he makes a couple plays, and then that changes the whole setting. But as of right now, I just don't know. I don't know we're going to get much out of him this year.
Let's flip it back to the defense. Jordan Brooks, career high 43 snaps, 11 tackles, team high, tied with Jamal Adams. Jordan Brooks is really starting to come into his own. I really enjoy watching Jordan Brooks play. He just brings that speed element that we've lacked from that position for a few years. And I think going forward, sky's the limit for this guy.
Oh, yeah. This was he's a good player, and he's a great athlete, and he's going to be fantastic for Seattle. They brought him along slowly. They gave him, they haven't thrown him out there and asked him to be the star, from day one. And I really think that worked in his favor. They've given him an opportunity to work on certain things, have certain roles, really learn as he goes, and learn from Bobby Wagner, who's one of the best ever put on a helmet. And I think it's been great for his development, and he just looks like a budding star. This is a team that the defense has had Bobby Wagner in the middle of it as kind of that centerpiece since he was drafted in 2012. And you kind of get the feeling that Jordan Brooks has that I'm going to carry on his legacy type attitude and ability. And it's going to be fun to watch him continue to develop. But he's been really, really good the last 3 games.
Yeah, he's a great scheme fit for the Seahawks. It seems like they're going to be able to play him on both sides, strong side and weak.
My guess is that if Wagner got hurt, Jordan Brooks would start at middle linebacker.
Well, in addition, Keith, nobody wants to talk about this, but at some point you need to talk about value versus production with Bobby Wagner. And, he's going to want to continue to get paid as he's getting paid right now, and
I don't know.
Usually guys that get cut in as far as pay end up switching teams because they just can't make that move with the team they've been with a long time. And I hate to have that happen with Wagner. I kind of want to see.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen with Bobby in the next year or two.
Well, are they going to continue to pay him $14 to $16 million a year if he were to drop, say, now this year he hasn't dropped
lead the NFL in tackles, to continue defending the pass 40 yards downfield and doing it well.
He's doing that, and he's got 135, 140 tackles this year. Say after next year he ends up with 100 tackles. He's missed 3 or 4 games because of nicks and bruises and so forth, and he's not covering guys like he used to. I mean, at some point, guys like Bobby will drop off a little bit, and you'll notice it on the field drastically from one year to the next. And that at that point, you have to decide whether or not you're going to continue to pay a guy to be not as good, even though he's a Hall of Famer.
You'll wait. You'll wait until that happens, and then you'll make that call. I think that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, all pro, great player, great leader. I mean, he's everything you want on as a middle linebacker.
Well, and for the franchise, it's huge.
Yeah, and so he's not going anywhere. But to have a guy like Brooks, who's going to play the weak side linebacker, and he's going to be the starter there. He's going to be the guy that you write in and pen as the starter there long term, and then 2-3 years from now, when Bobby does end up retiring or slowing down or getting hurt, that's when Brooks slides into the middle, which is where he played his senior year in college, and he takes over the defense. And then when, Bobby gets healthy, he comes back, maybe, Wagner starts playing, that weak side or doesn't really matter. But I think what you're looking at is you've got the old vet and the young rookie, and the two of them are both great, and they're gonna get a chance to be great together for 2 or 3 years after this.
All right, we'll see how that plays out. So let's move on. Let's get away from this disaster of a game and move to another opportunity. We've got the 0-12 New York Jets coming into Seattle against the 8-4 Seahawks. Seahawks currently in second place by virtue of a tiebreaker with the Rams in the NFC West. The Jets fired their defensive coordinator, as we discussed earlier, Greg Williams. Coach Frank Bush is the interim defensive coordinator. He was their inside linebacker coach. So we don't know exactly what the scheme is going to do. The Seahawks are probably going to play it straight as far as scheming as things were normal, and they'll have to adjust on the fly. Jets are horrible. They're really bad on defense, but they're even worse on offense. The Jets defense ranks 29th overall, bottom 5 pass defense in 2020, ranked 3rd against the run, though, which is interesting. Kind of weird, the Seahawks.
If you look at
the defense,
it's what's interesting about that is that they have been behind all year. They have been anemic on offense. They are one of the worst offenses the league has seen since the 1992 Seahawks. And I mean, they are that bad. So the fact they've been behind in these games, but they're still not giving up a lot of run yards, because if you're up 14 points, 17 points on a team, you're going to run the ball, you're going to shorten the game, you're going to get over with, and you're going to get out of there and go home with your win. And teams are trying to run, and they're not doing well at it. And that has been kind of the one thing, offense or defense, that the Jets do well, is they stop the run. So
this may or may not be the best game to bring along Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde and run into a brick wall.
Well, I think absolutely. But at the same time, they know you want to run the ball. They know that you want to establish that.
The box against Russell Wilson.
The way Russell Wilson's played the last few weeks, I would.
Yeah. At least you got to start that way.
Yeah. Stack the box, make Russell throw it, and see what happens. Now, what it does, though, is it gives the Seahawks an opportunity, because the Jets are bad in every other phase, right? They can't stop the pass. They can't play offense in any way. So go run some play action. Go put Russell on the move. Go get him outside the pocket with multiple layers downfield to fight an open guy. Take advantage of the Jets' run defense and their desire to stop the run by
great point
getting in there with 2 tight ends and or 3 tight ends and a running back, and stack the box, get them in their run defense, and then play action and go for it that way. You can do those kind of things to a team like the Jets, and you better do those kind of things.
You should be able to do about whatever you want to do. And we talked about it earlier. We should have been able to do whatever we wanted to do against the Giants, but instead we allowed them to dictate what we're trying to do. Anyway, if the Jets are going to give you the pass, go ahead and take advantage of that. I mean, Russell Wilson's great at that. If they're not going to stack the box and they're just going to rush 4 and they're going to play back a little bit, it'll be interesting to see if we do decide to run the ball and how effective we can be at doing that. Sam Darnold, poor guy. He's their quarterback. He's got 1,400 yards on the year, 5 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 64 passer rating, 3rd overall in the 2018 draft out of USC. Jets looking at the number 1 pick overall in the draft and will likely move on from Darnold and select one of Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, out of Ohio State. And then Darnold's going to be out looking for a job. I think he's probably under contract next year, but you almost have to start over. I think they're probably going to end up jettisoning Adam Gase as their coach,
which they need to do.
and they just need to start over.
I mean, look at how much better the Dolphins are with better coaching, and the fact that the Jets hired Gase after the job he did in Miami was. I didn't understand it, and he's shown that he's not the guy. So yeah, they need to jettison him, his coaching staff. They need to start over. And if I was the Jets, what I would do is I would go do what Arizona did a couple of years ago, and that go find the right coach that runs this.
Coach.
Yeah, that runs the system that you want Trevor Lawrence to run. Go draft Trevor Lawrence with the right coach, have that pairing together that you know is going to work. And
let me ask you this. There's a rumor out there that Doug Peterson's going to get canned.
Oh,
New York would hire him to be the coach.
Oh, they'd hire him in a second.
Because,
honestly,
he is a great quarterback coach.
Yeah.
In normal times. I don't know what's going on with Wentz. But
yeah, I don't get what's going on in Philly at all, because he won a Super Bowl, right?
I think it's injuries, quite honestly. I really do.
He took a team that everyone thought was kind of mediocre, that lost its starting quarterback late in the year, and still won a Super Bowl. Great coaching. Now, he took the team there and got
to the playoffs, but he didn't make it through.
Not talking Wentz, talk about Peterson.
Yeah.
And so they ended up, Nick Foles.
That was a great team. They were coached very well.
Yes,
absolutely. And I know the wheels have come off.
The wheels have come off, and I know that a lot of that offensively had to do with Frank Reich leaving and becoming the head coach in Indy. I think he's a fantastic coach, and I think that he's very much missed in Philadelphia. But it was still Peterson's team. They still did all that. The idea that a couple years after winning a Super Bowl the way they did, that you would jettison the front office and the coaching staff and start over.
The Seahawks almost did in 2017-18.
But that was Pete Carroll's doing. That wasn't.
But everybody but Pete Carroll was gone.
No, the entire front office stuck.
Well, you know what I mean.
Pete Carroll made the decision to change up the coaching staff, and get some new eyes and some new ideas.
Maybe if Peterson goes in and sells the shit out of that situation, he could possibly do that as well. If he can convince management that he's still the guy, but we'll see. Okay, so they've got some pieces, but they are very talent deficit oriented as far as the team is concerned. Mika Becton is their first round pick in 2020. Denzel Mims, second round pick in 2020. Both those guys are doing okay. Jamison Crowder, their big time wide receivers, only got 40 catches for 503 yards so far this year, 5 touchdowns. That's just coming out of a very anemic offense, but he's still a great player. Frank Gore, the ancient one, is been running for them, although he left that Raiders game after a couple plays with a concussion. Don't know what his status is. If he can't go, you're looking at Ty Johnson and Josh Adams to carry the ball. Those two guys are adequate. They do run the ball somewhat effectively because they're very, very poor at passing the ball. Guys that we've known from Seahawks past play for this team. Bradley McDougald, currently on injured reserve, injured his shoulder October 31st. Doesn't look like he's going to be back in this situation. So George Fant, though, is playing right tackle. He was out for a game before this last one, came back for the Raiders game. He should be playing. Another couple of guys, Neville Hewitt is a tackling machine for them at linebacker. He's a guy on defense that helps that run game out tremendously. And then Lamar Jackson at cornerback is a guy that we talked about pre-draft quite a bit as being a late round flyer guy out of Nebraska, long developmental type corner. Ended up starting for them right away, beat everyone he needed to beat out of camp, and has been doing fairly well with them, along with Bryce Hall. And then
Although he was the player beat by the double move on the final play of that Raider game.
Yeah.
Like, it's 5 seconds left in the game. Why are you
Jalen
biting?
Reagor or whatever, right?
Why are you biting on
Yeah,
that?
but one of the best rookie wide receivers in the game.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I'm saying, though, right?
No, I get
but
it.
It's you also have a coach that called an all-out blitz in that situation.
He was naked out there, all alone on an island.
Yeah.
And then Quinnen Williams as their defensive end. That's it. I mean, really, when you think about it, that's their team essentially, and it's just been really ineffective. And I kid you not, Keith, if the wheels come off the Seahawks for this game and they end up losing this thing because no team wants to go 0-16 in a year, they desperately want to win. They thought they had it against the Raiders. They've got that mindset this week. They know that Seattle's kind of on the ropes a little bit. They want to come in and just wing it, see what happens. They've got nothing to lose, a new defensive coordinator. This is definitely a game that the Seahawks should win by double digits. And if they do not, it's time to really reevaluate everything. But I anticipate them being able to take this game. I really do. Listen, Seahawks have been playing crappy, but this is a team where you kind of get right.
This is the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I know Jacksonville really wants to own that title, but I'm sorry, Jacksonville fans, the Jets are worse than you. This is a team that early in the year was bad enough that Trevor Lawrence actually came out and said, if they have the first pick, I might stay in college. That's how bad they were early in the year. So
he might reconsider if they jettison their entire coaching staff and have somebody that's in there that's going to be perfect for him. But they've got a long ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a situation where this team is terrible, and the Seahawks have no business having this be a close game. If this is a close game, then there are things seriously wrong with Russell Wilson right now. Like maybe he's hurt in ways that we don't know, and his throwing shoulder or elbow or something. But if this isn't a blowout win, I think it's safe to be worried about the direction of this team.
Yeah, I would say our defense should be able to hold them to 10 points. I mean, that's how bad they are on offense. And then our offense should be scoring 24 to 35 points. If we can get back to that sort of a situation, we start winning games like that again. And you've got to get right before you face Washington, an improving team on the road. And then
which has a good defense.
Which has a great defense, actually. Probably one of the better defenses we'll face down the stretch. And then you've got the Rams at home, and then the 49ers improving, desperate to kind of get in the backside of the playoffs. They've got a long.
I don't think they're not going to make it because, I mean,
but nonetheless, they would love nothing more than to disrupt the Seahawks' plans.
The 49ers are getting healthier, though. I mean, that's the thing with them was they were devastated by injuries. But they're starting to get guys back. Mozart is back running the ball for them. Richard Sherman's back out there. They're starting to get healthy.
They're supposed to get their tight end back by the time they face the Seahawks.
Yep. So they're a better team now than the last time Seattle played them. Although if you watched this last week's game, Richard Sherman did not look like he should have come back yet. From injured reserve, it was very rough for him on Sunday's game. So how do you think he's such a good guy?
How do you see this playing out? I mean, what are you seeing right now from the Seahawks that gives you any encouragement at all? And if not, how do you see this thing ending up?
Well, I mean, what I see in all of this is a defense that is improving. They're playing together. They're playing smarter. They're getting healthier. And, yeah, okay, they made a couple mistakes in the running game and got burned. in this last game, but they only give up 105 yards passing. They're getting to the quarterback. They're getting pressure. They're doing things now that they couldn't do early in the season. So I'm very encouraged by that. The offense needs to figure some stuff out, and it starts with the coaches. It starts with Schottenheimer. They've got to stop being cute and just line up and do what you do, and that's complete passes.
Do you
Let
see
Russ
them? Do
do
you
stuff.
see them getting away from passing early on first and second down,
No.
and getting more into the run game as been kind of desired by Pete Carroll? He's come out and said, "I want it more balanced. We need to have more balance."
Yeah, he wants it more balanced and whatnot, but it's not.
Would that be
gonna
in
happen.
service to this offense right now, given the struggles?
No.
So you just continue to throw the ball, but better routes, quicker routes, less time developing, and that's the way out of this mess.
Yeah, honestly, you have to fix what you're doing, because what you're doing clearly isn't working, right?
Well, you've got to be able to take advantage of what the defense is giving you or trying to take away.
Yeah, and they're not doing any of that. They're just really not scheming smartly in any way. And then on top of that, you have Russell Wilson being very tentative and gun shy and missing passes that he wouldn't normally miss. One that comes to mind is one down the left sideline to Freddie Swain, who was open down the sideline, and Wilson missed him by like 10 yards and almost threw a pick. I think the safety should have picked it off, hit him in the hands. And when was the last time you saw Russell Wilson throw a pass that was that far off?
Yeah, it is interesting.
Never.
I mean, you look at Wilson's statistics: 27 to 43, 263 yards, a touchdown, had an interception, lost a fumble.
Well, the interception also hit someone in the hands,
but those
and it got popped up in the air.
True.
I'm not gonna burn him for that.
But those stats point to not awful, but it's just the way that he looks doing it. He's just discombobulated. The whole offense is out of sync. There's no rhythm to any of this stuff. In between a reception, you've got a couple of drop passes or overfiring or underthrows.
Nothing looks easy for the offense right now.
Right.
Other than that first drive until it stalled right before the
and there's
end
been
zone.
A couple other handful of drives in the last 4 or 5 games that have looked easy.
But other than that, nothing looks easy.
7 games.
Nothing looks easy for them right now.
And you have to say that the defenses against us have figured this out. And that's the difference. I mean,
there's a lot of
that's the difference, right? I mean, everything else is basically the same. It's the way that we're being defensed and not adjusting to that, to me, is a big, huge part of this. And you have to look at the way Schottenheimer is calling the plays, scheming this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of play action anymore, and when they do, it's not even. It's like really slow developing play action.
Right. It's you can diagnose those plays very quickly, to me.
Yeah, and so they're not doing a lot of play action. When they do, it's really slow. They're doing a lot of very slow developing route combinations where everybody's going deep, and there's not other than like a running back, there's no one underneath.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And this is a lot of problems. And then part of it in this game wasn't just on Wilson. I mean, one of the drives stalled when Chris Carson just got ran over trying to pick up a blitz and didn't even really offer resistance. Got hit, ended up on his butt, and Wilson got sacked. And that kind of stuff doesn't help. Like you can't have that because that kills drives, and it did. It was third down, and boom, done.
That's why I have to give little hats off to the Giants defense. I mean, with the 5 sacks and 10 hits, and losing 45 yards on those sacks, that's that's on Russell Wilson. But man, the defense is going to make that happen, and they did. And then we went away from what was working. I mean, Chris Carson had 50 yards or 60 yards on a handful of carries, really, like 10 carries, 13 carries, 65 yards.
They
28-yard
went
TD
away
pass.
from what was working.
Right.
That's a Brian Schottenheimer, like, that's his trademark.
And we were, we had the third quarter to kind of exploit running the ball, and we just didn't. We ended up screwing ourselves on the fourth and inches play. We ran that.
That made no
We
sense
should
too.
have run Chris Carson up the middle, and it just
you have Chris Carson, or you know what? It was fourth and inches. Why does this team hate the quarterback sneak? Every other team does it. And because your quarterback's short, he's still over 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, let him, do his thing. And I'm very frustrated.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I know. It's just, it was just weird. It was one of those plays where I called it out at the time. I was like, man, they've just got that diagnosed. It's like the defense knew exactly what we were going to do, and they just completely blew that thing up and had no chance at all. And it's looked like 3 or 4 of the last 5 fourth down attempts where the defenses just absolutely know what we're going to do.
Yeah, because
And
there's not a lot of creativity. They're running the same plays.
Let me ask you
that they
this:
did early in the year
Russell
on
Wilson
fourth down.
doesn't seem to be able to get up to the line and diagnose things
Well,
accurately.
If you look at what's happening, they're getting up to the line with like 5 seconds left on the play clock. They're not giving him an opportunity to diagnose what's going on pre-snap. The plays are coming in really late, and they're getting out of the huddle and getting up to the line really late, and that's got to stop. That's why
you need to go into some sort of hurry up where you don't even huddle. You just let Russell Wilson call the plays. He knows the offense. He knows what they're trying to do. He knows what's working, what feels right. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that I liked about Mike Holmgren when he was here, was they had the slow hurry up where they'd get to the line, and then Matt would sit there and look at the defense, figure out what their call is, decide what he wants to do. So they weren't running, get to the line, snap the ball, like all those plays, but they weren't huddling, and they weren't letting the defense substitute.
This happens so consistently. This has to be a mandate from Pete Carroll, because this is the way that they want to do it. It's ball control. They want to run that clock all the way down so that they take less. They allow the other team less of an opportunity to have the ball by controlling the clock as much as they can. And one of the ways they do that is run the clock all the way down to 0 every time. But it bites them. It bites them frequently.
It does bite them because they're not doing all the things they need to do
pre-snap.
I agree. Because they wait so long to get to the line.
I agree. I totally agree.
Get to the line 5 seconds earlier and still don't snap it until there's 3 seconds left.
In addition to that, he's got Schottenheimer in his helmet. It's like they talk to each other throughout when he's at the line. He's probably calling out specific players or different things where he's seeing, a defender shade to one side or another. All that kind of stuff is being communicated up till the snap. So I don't know what's going on. Everything is not working. Like, there are multiple things not working. Brian Schottenheimer, the play calling, the time before the snap, the pre-snap diagnosis, the adjustments, the dump offs, getting rid of the ball, not taking sacks, the intentional grounding, the interception, the fumble, taking the snacks for 47-yard loss. There are multiple things going on here that are not good. Mm-hmm. And we need to just strike each one of them off and try to take care of them as they come up, because
it's not working.
These things weren't happening the first 6 or 7 games. They just weren't.
No. Part of it was that in the first 6 or 7 games, the offensive line was really, really good, and it hasn't been recently. Brandon Shell's injury has really thrown a wrench into all of that, and they're not getting, out of the left guard spot. They're not getting as good a play there, with Lupati and Simmons both, struggling with injuries. They've had some problems at center. although that should have been fixed with Posick back. But they've really struggled, on the offensive line the last few games, and that has a lot to do with what's going on. They're not opening the running lanes the way they were, and they're letting Wilson get hit more. It's not. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not like it was last year or the year before that or any time when Tom Cable was here. It's still better than that, but it has been significantly worse than the first 5 games in the year when the offensive line was truly very good.
All right. So let's get out of here. So, we need to figure out a way to get at least to 11 wins, get in the playoffs. It's going to be a wild card at 11 wins. We're going to be on the road. We're probably going to face those Giants again, or maybe this team coming up, the Washington football team. If we can get to 12 wins, win out, the remaining games, we have a better chance of having things in our favor a little bit, but we'll see. This game against the Giants was pretty costly. I mean, really,
it was very costly.
Yeah.
They had, this was a team that it was lined up for them to be the number 2 seed to win the, win the division, have the number 2 seed, have home field advantage for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, have it all.
It's
all
still doable.
Yeah, but now they need a lot of help.
Well, they need Green Bay and they need the Rams to help them out. We'll see.
Green Bay to lose. They need the Rams to lose, and they need the Saints. I guess the Saints could win out and take that 1 seed. And
yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go.
But yeah, it's the team no longer controls what's going on. They're no longer the 2 seed with everyone gunning for them.
Well,
now
we
they're the 5
control
seed.
it a little bit by beating the next 2 opponents and then beating the Rams. The Seahawks need to win out. If they win out, I think that they're in pretty decent shape. Especially if they do win out, we know that the offense came back around.
Yeah.
I think they're in decent shape.
If the Seahawks win out, they do win the division because they're tied with the Rams for record. They will have beaten the Rams in that, so they will have the better record than the Rams guaranteed. If the Seahawks win out, they win the division, and then we go from there. But
if they limp in, all bets are off.
They're 3-4 in the last 7. After the hot start, they're 3-4 over the last 7.
They were 6-1.
Yeah.
At one time.
So.
I know. Sometimes it just goes that way. I know. I was, my prediction, out of the prediction show, I was so proud because I was pretty much 8-0 on my predictions. And then the wheels just started coming off everywhere. So, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it happens. I would expect as amazing as a coach that Pete Carroll is, as amazing as a player as Russell Wilson, they're going to get this thing figured out and get it right. And this is the game that it happens, and we'll just move forward. But that Giants game was rough. So we just need to figure that out, get that out of the way, and move forward. And hopefully we can do that this week. I remain optimistic that will happen. And I've seen it in the past where this team comes together in December and gets it done. So, all right. So follow Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. I'm at NW Seahawk. The show is at Hawks Playbook. SeahawksPlaybook.com has all of the shows. And subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you get the show in the feed all the time, and YouTube as well. So until next week, Keith, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.